Gentlemen, I want to tell you about a 66-year-old patient named Marcus, retired Marine, the kind of man who never complained, never asked for help, and spent 40 years being the person everyone else leaned on. He came into my clinic and sat down with the particular stillness of a man who had been sitting with something for a long time before finally deciding to say it out loud. And what he said was this: "Doctor, I don't know what happened. I used to be the man my wife looked at a certain way. Now I go to bed feeling like I've already lost before I've started, and I don't know if there's anything left to work with." Marcus wasn't broken. His labs weren't catastrophic, but something had shifted, quietly, gradually, in the way these things always shift, and he had reached the point where he'd begun to believe the shift was permanent, that the version of himself that was capable, present, and strong in the most intimate moments of his life was simply a younger man's story. He was wrong. And within 14 weeks, he knew it. If any part of what Marcus felt sounds familiar, if you've noticed that your staying power, your confidence, or your physical performance at night has changed in ways you've quietly accepted, stay with me. Because what I'm going to share today is not about chasing something unrealistic. It is about understanding exactly what separates the men who maintain genuine strength and vitality after 60 from the men who don't, and closing that gap with precision. I'm Dr. Jocelyn Carter, a board-certified urologist with over 14 years of experience helping men over 60 restore their sexual function, their hormonal health, and their confidence in the bedroom. I want to challenge something you may have been told, that staying strong, present, and capable through intimacy after 60 is a matter of luck, genetics, or simply having had a good run. In my clinical experience and in the research I follow closely, that belief is far more negotiable than most men realize. The men who stay strong all night are not special. They are not exceptions. They are doing specific, learnable things differently. And today I'm going to tell you exactly what those things are. Before we go any further, do me a favor. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me one word that describes how you want to feel in the bedroom at 60, 70, or beyond. One word. I read every single one, and I want to hear yours. Now, here's the thing that most men, and honestly most doctors, get wrong about sexual performance and staying power after 60. They treat it as a single problem with a single solution. They focus on the moment itself and ignore everything that determines the outcome hours and days before that moment arrives. What I see in the men who maintain remarkable strength and stamina well into their 60s and 70s is not one thing. It is a system, a set of interconnected habits and physiological conditions that work together to keep the body capable of what it is still fully designed to do. The men who struggle are not failing in the bedroom. They are failing in the 23 hours before the bedroom. And once they understand that, everything changes. Today, I'm walking you through 7 things these men do differently. The exact protocol that separates the men who stay strong from the men who've accepted that strength is behind them. Let's go through them one by one. Number 1, they protect their nitric oxide production like it is their most valuable asset, because it is. Biologically, nitric oxide is the molecule at the center of every erection. It is released by the endothelial cells lining your blood vessels and signals the smooth muscle of the penile tissue to relax, allowing blood to rush in and create an erection. Without adequate nitric oxide, an erection is not fully possible, regardless of desire, regardless of testosterone levels, regardless of anything else. And here is what most men over 60 don't know. Nitric oxide production declines by approximately 50% between the ages of 40 and 70, half. This is not a minor decline. It is the single most significant physiological reason that erectile function changes with age, and it is directly addressable through specific daily habits. The men who stay strong understand this and build their days around protecting and replenishing this molecule. They eat leafy greens, arugula, spinach, beetroot, which are rich in dietary nitrates that the body converts to nitric oxide. They do not use mouthwash before bed because the oral bacteria destroyed by antiseptic mouthwash are the same bacteria that facilitate the conversion of dietary nitrates into nitric oxide. That single habit, something millions of men do automatically every night, is quietly undermining one of the most important biological pathways for sexual function. They prioritize cardiovascular health through daily movement because the endothelial cells that produce nitric oxide are stimulated and maintained by regular blood flow and gentle cardiovascular stress. Emotionally, understanding this mechanism gives men something profoundly important: a reason. Not a vague instruction to eat better and exercise more, but a specific understanding of why. A biological story that makes the effort feel connected to the outcome. Marcus, when I explained the nitric oxide pathway to him, sat back and said, "So this is actually fixable. It's not just me." That reframe, from personal failure to physiological process, is often the first thing that needs to change before anything else can. Practically, every day, eat 1 serving of nitrate-rich vegetables. Stop using antiseptic mouthwash at night. Use a non-antiseptic rinse or simply brush and floss. Walk for at least 20 to 30 minutes daily at a pace that slightly elevates your heart rate. These 3 actions, done consistently, meaningfully support your nitric oxide production over weeks and months. Number 2, they sleep like their performance depends on it, because it does. Biologically, the connection between sleep quality and sexual performance in men over 60 is not subtle. It is direct, measurable, and profound. The majority of daily testosterone synthesis occurs during sleep, specifically during REM and slow-wave sleep cycles. Men who average less than 6 hours of sleep show testosterone levels equivalent to men 10 years older than their chronological age. A landmark study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that 1 week of sleep restriction to 5 hours per night reduced testosterone levels in young, healthy men by 10 to 15%. For men over 60, whose baseline testosterone is already lower and whose sleep architecture is already more fragile, the effect is compounded significantly. Beyond testosterone, sleep governs the regulation of cortisol, the primary stress hormone that is in direct biological opposition to testosterone. When cortisol is chronically elevated due to poor sleep, it actively suppresses Leydig cell function in the testes. Poor sleep also impairs the brain's ability to regulate desire and emotional connection, 2 things that matter as much as physiology in intimate performance. I remember a patient named Gerald, 71, a retired school principal. Disciplined man, healthy diet, still exercised. But he was sleeping 5.5 hours a night and had been for years, treating it as a point of pride. When we corrected his sleep, addressing his sleep apnea, adjusting his evening routine, supporting his sleep architecture with magnesium glycinate, his testosterone levels rose by nearly 30% over 4 months without any other intervention. He called me after the first month and said, "I don't know what you did, but my wife wants to know if you can bottle it." We had simply given his body the conditions it needed to do its own work. Practically, target 7 to 9 hours. Address any symptoms of sleep apnea, loud snoring, waking unrefreshed, excessive daytime sleepiness, with your physician, as untreated sleep apnea is one of the most significant and most underdiagnosed contributors to erectile dysfunction and low testosterone in men over 50. Take 200 to 300 milligrams of magnesium glycinate 45 minutes before bed. Keep your bedroom cool, between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit, as testicular function and testosterone production are both sensitive to temperature. Dark, quiet, and cool, non-negotiable. Number 3, they manage their belly fat with the understanding that it is hormonally active tissue, not just excess weight. Biologically, visceral fat, the fat stored deep in the abdominal cavity around the organs, is not metabolically inert. It is an endocrine organ. It produces estrogen. It expresses high levels of the aromatase enzyme, which converts testosterone into estrogen directly in the fat tissue. This means that for men carrying significant visceral fat, the testosterone their testes produce is being converted to estrogen before it can be used. The result is a hormonal environment that suppresses libido, reduces erectile function, impairs energy, and promotes further fat storage. a self-reinforcing cycle that gets harder to break the longer it continues. Research published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism has consistently shown that visceral fat reduction, even modest reductions of 10 to 15%, produces meaningful increases in free testosterone and significant improvements in sexual function in men over 50. Practically, the most evidence-supported strategies for visceral fat reduction in older men are resistance training, time-restricted eating, and reducing refined carbohydrate intake. Not extreme dieting, not marathon running. Resistance training 2 to 3 times per week, even bodyweight exercises, stimulates the hormonal environment that promotes visceral fat metabolism specifically. Time-restricted eating, consuming all food within a 10 to 12-hour window each day, reduces the insulin exposure that drives visceral fat storage. These are achievable. They are worth it in ways that go far beyond appearance. Number 4, they never go into intimacy dehydrated. Biologically, this sounds almost too simple, and that is exactly why most men overlook it. Blood is approximately 90% water. Erections are a hydraulic event. They require sufficient blood volume moving efficiently through vascular channels under adequate pressure. Dehydration, even at the mild level that many men carry chronically without realizing it, reduces blood plasma volume, thickens the blood, reduces nitric oxide bioavailability, and elevates the angiotensin system, which causes blood vessels to constrict rather than dilate. The combined effect of even mild dehydration on erectile function is clinically measurable and frequently underestimated. A patient of mine, Thomas, 63, had been struggling with inconsistent performance for 2 years. We went through his routine carefully. He was drinking 2 cups of coffee in the morning, almost nothing during the day, and a glass of wine in the evening, a diuretic before bed. He was going into every intimate moment profoundly dehydrated, without ever identifying it as a variable. We corrected his hydration, his electrolyte balance. We removed the evening alcohol on nights that mattered. The difference, he told me, was like going from a garden hose with a kink in it to the hose working the way it was supposed to. Practically, drink consistently throughout the day, not just when thirsty, as the thirst mechanism becomes less reliable after 50. Target half your body weight in ounces of water daily. Add electrolytes, sea salt, potassium, magnesium, to at least 1 glass. Reduce or eliminate alcohol on evenings when intimacy is anticipated, as alcohol impairs the neurological signaling required for erection at even moderate doses, despite its reputation for reducing inhibition. Number 5, they do pelvic floor training, and they take it seriously. Biologically, this is one of the most underutilized and most evidence-backed tools available to men over 60 for improving both erectile function and ejaculatory control. The bulbocavernosus and ischiocavernosus muscles of the pelvic floor play a direct mechanical role in erection rigidity and duration. These muscles compress the deep penile veins during erection, trapping blood and maintaining firmness. When these muscles are weak, which they become progressively in sedentary men, blood escapes more easily, rigidity is reduced, and duration suffers. A landmark randomized controlled trial published in BJU International found that pelvic floor muscle training restored normal erectile function in 40% of men with erectile dysfunction, and significantly improved function in another 35%, results comparable to pharmacological intervention without medication. Practically, the exercise is straightforward. Contract the muscles you would use to stop urination midstream. Hold for 3 seconds, release, repeat. 10 repetitions 3 times daily. Build toward 10-second holds over 4 to 6 weeks. The key is consistency and correct muscle isolation. The abdomen, buttocks, and thighs should not tighten, only the pelvic floor. Most men see meaningful improvement within 6 to 8 weeks of daily practice. This requires no equipment, no gym, no prescription. It requires only the decision to begin. Number 6, they address psychological performance anxiety directly, and they do not pretend it isn't there. Biologically, performance anxiety activates the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response. The sympathetic nervous system directly opposes erection. Erection is a parasympathetic event. It requires the body to be in a state of safety, relaxation, and presence. Adrenaline, released during anxiety, causes vasoconstriction, the opposite of what an erection requires. For men who have experienced one episode of difficulty, the anticipatory anxiety that follows often becomes the primary driver of subsequent episodes, creating a self-fulfilling cycle where the fear of failure produces the physiological conditions for failure. This cycle is extraordinarily common in men over 60 and extraordinarily treatable once it is named and understood. The men who stay strong do not ignore this dynamic. They understand that the brain is the most important sexual organ in the body, and they invest in managing its state. They practice diaphragmatic breathing before intimacy, slow, deep breaths that activate the parasympathetic system and override the anxiety response. They communicate openly with their partners rather than retreating into silence and shame. They understand that one difficult evening is not a verdict, it is a data point, and data points can change. Practically, 3 to 5 minutes of slow, deliberate breathing before intimacy. 4 counts in, hold for 4, 6 counts out. This is not a spiritual practice. It is a physiological intervention that measurably shifts autonomic tone. It works. Use it. Number 7, they approach testosterone support proactively through both lifestyle and, when appropriate, clinical evaluation. Biologically, free testosterone, the biologically active form, declines at approximately 1 to 2% per year after age 30. By 60, many men have lost between 30 and 50% of their peak testosterone levels. The symptoms are well known: reduced libido, diminished erectile function, decreased morning erections, fatigue, reduced muscle mass, mood changes, and reduced competitive drive. What is less well known is how much of this decline is modifiable through lifestyle. And for men whose decline has progressed beyond the lifestyle addressable range, how available and effective clinical testosterone support has become. The men who stay strong do not simply accept declining testosterone as the price of aging. They eat diets rich in the saturated and monounsaturated fats required for hormone synthesis: eggs, olive oil, avocado, red meat in moderation. They do resistance training, which is the single most powerful lifestyle stimulus for testosterone production available to men. They minimize alcohol, which directly suppresses testosterone synthesis at the level of the testes. They manage chronic stress, which chronically elevates cortisol and chronically suppresses testosterone. And when labs indicate that clinical intervention is appropriate, they work with a urologist or endocrinologist to explore testosterone replacement therapy, an option that has been significantly refined in recent years and carries a strong evidence base for quality of life improvement in appropriately selected men. Practically, get your testosterone levels checked, total and free testosterone, along with SHBG, LH, and estradiol. Know your numbers. Do not guess, and do not assume that how you feel is an accurate reflection of where your hormones are. Numbers give you a baseline. A baseline gives you a direction. So here is your action plan, gentlemen. Protect your nitric oxide. Daily nitrate-rich vegetables, no antiseptic mouthwash at night, consistent daily movement. Prioritize sleep, 7 to 9 hours, magnesium glycinate before bed, address sleep apnea if suspected. Reduce visceral fat, resistance training 2 to 3 times weekly, time-restricted eating. Stay hydrated consistently with electrolytes and manage alcohol strategically. Train your pelvic floor, 10 repetitions 3 times daily, every day. Address performance anxiety directly: breathing, communication, perspective. And support your testosterone proactively through lifestyle and through clinical evaluation when warranted. 7 habits, a system, not a single fix, but a physiology that you build day by day into something your body can actually sustain. I want to say something to you before we close, and I want to say it plainly. If you have been feeling like the version of yourself that was strong, capable, and fully present in your most intimate moments belongs to a younger man, I want you to reconsider that belief today. Not because I'm offering you false hope, but because the research is clear, and I have sat across from enough men like Marcus to know that what feels permanent often isn't. Your body has more capacity than you've been given credit for. The men who stay strong all night are not lucky. They are intentional. And intention is something you can choose starting today. If this video gave you something real today, give it a like so other men can find it. Leave a comment. Tell me which of these 7 you're committing to first. Share this with a man who has quietly stopped expecting strength from himself, because giving up is not the only option. And subscribe, because every week I bring you evidence-backed, clinically honest information built specifically for men who are not done yet. I'm Dr. Emily Carter. The capacity for strength, presence, and vitality after 60 is not gone. For most men, it has simply been waiting for the right conditions to return. Now you know exactly how to create them. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.